Now, do you want to do the gift before the question, or do you want to start with the question and then do the gift?
Let's do the gift before the question.
Okay. Before we get into the question, you're bringing presents.
I'm bringing presents, absolutely. Paul, it's a real opportunity. Thanks a lot for having me, man. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's a pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you for coming up from another country.
Yeah, you got a tough podcast to follow. I was watching the last one where you had the girl on here, the good-looking woman, and she had a heck of a story with her firefighter husband and turning that grief into something positive. I thought that was beautiful, man. I really do.
We don't get to... One of the things that I have learned in all the guests that I've spoken to, sometimes if we focus on the transition component, which is what the podcast is about, there are many instances where from these careers, veteran, first responder, you don't get to truly control your exit date. Unfortunately, you might have a plan to go a while, and Mr. Murphy has a say and says, it ain't going to happen when you plan it, it's going to happen when I plan it. Equally, when family members like her lose a loved one from these careers, it's something to where she could have easily crawled into her proverbial shell and wallowed in that pain and that loss. She didn't. She turned it around, and she's making it not just positive for her and her family and her daughters, but positive for all the other firefighters by bringing cancer awareness and cancer screening to them. So it's taking something that was so tragic in her life, but yet taking that and making it as positive as it can be.
Absolutely. And that's what was so admirable about her efforts and whatnot. And then I watched it. It was just... It really helped me out as a person as well, because you were completely correct with the exit strategy. I mean, they say man has a plan and then God laughs, absolutely. So I can understand that. I related to it really well. And I remember her question was, what was her biggest failure? And that got me thinking about my thousands and thousands of failures that I've had. I mean, there's probably been about 1,000 failures for every success, and that's the honest to God truth. And it really brought that into focus for me. Made me think about that a lot as well. So
very cool. Glad you got something out of it.
Hey, I got a present for you too, if I may.
Please.
Brought this from Mexico. It's a luchador mask.
Oh, nice. Thank you very much.
That's for you, sir.
That's
Absolutely.
really cool.
Yeah. Coming from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Very, very cool.
Right on, man. I'm glad. I hope it don't mess up your hair.
You know what? If I don't shave, it may stick to it. Try to get it off and it's all stuck.
Right on, man. I'm glad you like it, brother.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. With that, though, I don't want to steal the thunder from you. Previous guest, you get to experience the first question.
Okay, absolutely. I sure appreciate that. Let me see here.
Maybe we recycled it and it's just what's your greatest failure again.
I wish we'd be here for more than 3 hours, man. I'm telling you. Do you think in the military or first responder world that there's a place for compassion or connection on a human level with other members? Or should it just be suck it up at all times? That's a heck of a question there.
Well, it's a little bit of a backstory jump. So you're old like me. You went in the military way back before it was the kindler, gentler, let's talk about our feelings military.
Very true.
So, I mean, for somebody listening, that's going to be probably a definite barometer on if you bring the answer to specifically the military. I'd imagine that that's going to be impacted by your experience.
Very true. Now I understand the crux of the question after you put it that way. And there wasn't any really room for any feelings or emotions or anything like that. I mean, those Chiefs, man, the Chiefs took balling you out to almost an art form. They really did. And it was tough not to laugh or smile when you're getting your ass chewed. Getting chewed, you know what I mean? So as far as the new military, I'm not quite sure that I agree with the premise of it. The military is not a corporation. The military is there for war. And in war, things get very tight. You have to understand where your breaking points and whatnot are at. You've got to put them behind you. And just to be dead honest with you, I never really understood the new mentality that's in operation right now with the military, making it more of a corporation as opposed to a fighting force. And I'm seeing that kind of go back a little bit now. But we were there right when the, I guess, transition was going on with the military. And I got a funny story for you. You want to hear it, man?
Please.
This is a little bit off color, and I apologize beforehand. I was in 57 Division up in Misawa, Japan. And there was it was very salty sailors. I mean, we were the guys who went out to ship. Whenever a ship needed our services or whatnot, we'd ship out of there and we go on that ship and we do whatever we did and we, come back. So this is a very colorful group of characters, to put it lightly. And we got our first woman in there. I'm going to leave names out of this for reasons.
What year did you go in?
89.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you talking still some salty guys that are Vietnam era?
Yeah, there was actually two guys. One guy on our ship was a Vietnam era guy. So he was at the very end of it. And this is right then. And you just saw the transition coming into the military at that point. We never had a woman in the 57 Division before. Never had. And we got the first one in there. And for her, to try to understand her perspective, she probably wasn't very used to the type of camaraderie that went on in that division. And she let this be known very well. She wouldn't stand for the colorful language or some of the different topics that we chose for discussion in this, And she made that known very well. And so there was a bit of an attitude toward her, if I may. Man, there was always all kinds of pranks and stuff like that going on with us. So just to give you a little bit of insight as to the switch in the Navy that I saw it as it kind of went from these bunch of animals over to more of a corporate mindset. Yeah, so
there's two sides of the coin. It's a double-edged sword. It's whatever, yin and yang you want to refer to. There's a part of me, whether you're talking about the veteran community, military community, or the first responder community, there's something about traditions and the way we used to do things, whatever it is. I'll use the Marine Corps as an example. Marine Corps boot camp has always had a mystique and a reputation about it. There's something that they take very seriously when they say, we make Marines. That I don't think should ever go away. With that, though, now I'm a father of 2 daughters. When I hear people say things like, women can't do what men can do. Granted, they have limitations. I've had a guest on here who made it into the AOD community, into the special operations community. Wow. And from the little bit that I got to talk to her, if she had been able to try out for the SEAL teams, who knows? But she struck me as somebody who, if she put her mind to it, she'd make it through. What I'm getting with that is there are some changes that have to move forward when you're talking about the way, women are dealt with. The way that we now as humans understand that ball busting's good. It's fun. Have fun with it. But there is a point where it does need to stop. There is a point that at the end of the day, these are just jobs. And we need to make the people doing these jobs the best they can be. And I'm not trying to sound like the Army commercial or anything like that, but I'm just saying, have the person come in, do the job to the best of their ability, make the environment as good as they can, so that when they leave these careers, they're as good as they can be on the outside. That may come across as a soft, not hard way of thinking about it. But when you have enough time to look back, you see that sometimes breaking these people down in these careers isn't the best thing for them as a person. And we don't do them the justice that they deserve.
I understand your point. I do. I think something that gets forgotten a lot of times is that it's not more than just a job, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The job is war, and the job is, basically life and death in a lot of instances. And to be able to break somebody down, you got to kind of know where their breaking point's at. And I think that's what a lot of our chiefs and whatnot would try to drive people to find out where their breaking point was at, whether they could be in a situation where they could be trusted to, act in the best manner that would befit the people that they're next to, because ultimately you're only as strong as the person next to you. And that chain has to be strong no matter what. There's no excuses out there. You've been there. There's no, that was a girl that, fell down, so let it go. You can't. Those situations require for people to be, I wouldn't say hardened, but you have to keep going no matter what. And there's no, like I stated before, there's no excuses. And unfortunately, there are physical limitations associated with men and women. And I understand that. And believe me, I understand the argument that women should be given the same opportunities and whatnot as men do, then make the standards the exact same. Mm-hmm. There can't be, a woman doesn't only has to run a mile where a man has to run 2 miles, because this isn't golf. You know what I mean? So yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I disagree in some points and I agree with others.
And understand this, I came and was raised by a father who struck first and then spoke, Yeah. And I knew my place, and I knew when I screwed up, because there was immediate repercussions. So I am a firm believer in making things hard, making it firm. Don't get me wrong about that at all. And like I said, go back to the Marine Corps. I don't think that it should ever change, because like you said, you chose to be a warfighter. You chose to sign up to be as a member of the military, or you sign up to be a first responder, which means you are the people that we're going to call when the shit hits the fan. We need to be able to make sure that you're going to be able to maintain your composure in the middle of that. The only way we can, not the only way, but one of the ways that we can do that is in a setting where we push you, and then we push you a little bit more, and we push you a little bit more. And like you said, we find out where your breaking point is. And if you're breaking, and everybody's got a breaking point.
Absolutely.
But if you learn where your breaking point is, as long as it's at an acceptable level, then you know how to better perform and operate, and maybe even could work on increasing your breaking point.
That's true. That's a good point. It really is. Maybe you can increase it. Maybe you can't. I'm not really quite sure, to be honest with you. I know that the Navy chiefs that we had they were experts.
Different breed.
Absolutely.
That's a different breed.
Yeah, there was no they thrived on finding people's breaking points, man. They did, brother, and they were good at it too. And it's almost a science with them, to be honest with you.
What are you saying? It wasn't touchy-feely?
It wasn't touchy-feely at all, man.
They didn't care how you felt?
So, very true. They did not take my emotions into consideration when they were doing some of the different points, man. So, but God bless them, man. They were cool. And I was fortunate enough, when I was in boot camp down in Orlando, Florida, had Chief Hendricks, and I can say his name, man. He was a good cat, man. I love that guy to death. Anyway, we were going through boot camp, and he was the one that pulled me aside and asked me if I would be interested in going into intelligence, because I think I had written yeoman or something like that on my entry form. And so then he got me into the intelligence programs, which was really cool. Then they did the background check on me, which is top secret clearance, which is wild because I'm from Goshen, Ohio, a little town outside of Cincinnati. And they actually sent, I don't know if they were federal agents or what they were, but they went and they talked to my second grade teachers. They talked to my friends. They talked to my family. And Goshen's a very close-knit community. And for outsiders to come in and start asking questions and whatnot, I would have loved to have been there, man. I would have loved to see some of the reactions. But
how big of a city is it?
Goshen's a small,
back at that time.
Yeah, small town, man. Small town. I think, if memory serves correct, we maybe had 400 people in our high school. I mean, it was small. If memory serves, I think that's about right. Forgive me if I'm wrong with those numbers, but yeah, it was small.
Everybody knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody. Absolutely. It's grown quite a bit now. I mean, I couldn't believe we got metal detectors in our school, and I was like, "What? We got what?" So that was a heck of a thing. But
you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a sister that. Yeah.
Are you older or younger?
Younger, a lot younger, actually. Yeah. So.
Were you a good kid growing up?
That needs to be said. It depends on how you looked at it. There was definitely some shenanigans that went on, but it was all good natured. I mean, there was nothing bad, but there was definitely there's definitely some things that could be considered, he's a bit rambunctious or whatnot, so played football and wrestled in high school and generally got good grades. There were some setbacks and whatnot, but, we got through them, so.
Were you good at either one of the sports?
I was fairly good, yeah, at defensive end. I did pretty well with football. I love football. Wrestling, not so good. I didn't have the coordination. That was a bit awkward. And I could never really, I didn't do too well wrestling, but I tried and I liked it, so we did the best we could. I think I went like 4-12 or something like that. I was the guy that you wanted to wrestle from the other schools.
Yes, I got him. But the problem is that was just the first round. You still had 2 or 3 more rounds to go.
I know, man. Yeah. So, growing up in Goshen was great. I mean, it was like an idyllic background to grow up in.
Kind of work did mom and dad do?
My dad was a TV repairman. He owned his own television shop. That's what really got me interested in being an entrepreneur, because he would always point out any service you see or any product that you see, that's a business. And you can do that business, and he gave me that confidence and whatnot. I remember being like a little kid, man, and wanting money and going down in front of IGA and setting up a little table and selling comic books and lemonade. And, and then I made some money. I was like, and then I go offer to cut neighbors' yards and whatnot to make money as well. And that kind of indoctrinated me into the entrepreneurial mindset, to be honest with you. And that was to define the market, find out what people wanted, and figure out how to deliver those goods or services. And I'll never forget that as a little kid. Yeah.
Mom and dad pushed that in the sense of, hey, get out there and hustle, or just did it kind of come natural to you?
Kind of came naturally. My mom was a nurse. She worked at Christ Hospital in the psych ward. So she was a psych nurse, and she would come home and, just tell us, different stories about the different patients and whatnot, and leave all the names and everything out of it. But I always just admired that she was helping people, and my mom also volunteered for the Life Squad. And so she would get the calls. We'd have a little plectron set up in the kitchen and whatnot. And she would get the calls. When that thing would go off, she'd have to go, And one of my best friends, David Myers, when we were growing up, he was his whole family was volunteer fire department as well. And so I always had a lot of respect and admiration for the way that they'd have to drop everything when that thing went off and go. And I thought that was pretty cool.
What year did you graduate high school?
1986.
86.
Yeah.
Coming out of high school, do you have any plans? Was the military already on your radar?
I had no plans. The military wasn't on my radar. Went to a small college up at Muskingum and didn't do too well up there, and then ended up in Western Kentucky. Didn't do too well there. Just kind of flopping around, not really knowing what I wanted to do or having any ideas.
What drew you into Kentucky?
What's that? I'm sorry.
What drew you into Kentucky?
Basically, I couldn't stay in Muskingum. So they accepted
I had
me.
to leave.
Yeah, so they accepted me. That was a big part there. And I got to. I had a lot of interesting experiences down in Western Kentucky. I got to work for a judge, Judge Lewis, and I got to distribute community hours for when he got in trouble. And that was my little side gig that I had going on to help get through school. And that was interesting because I got to sit in the courtrooms and see, when people were sentenced and whatnot. And then when you got community service, I got to interview you and figure out a good fit for you and where to go do your community service and whatnot. So it was interesting. It was a cool job, to be honest with you.
What did you start studying, or what kind of was your pull when you got into college? What were you thinking of at that time?
I was going to be a philosophy major, to be honest. And I just seen the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and I figured I would be a bouncer and study philosophy. And I didn't even know what that was going to end up doing. And then, so I tried different jobs. I was a roofer.
A little hindsight, probably not much.
It was definitely making it up as I went. And I know I didn't like working. I had a job as a roofer, and that was awful. Whenever you tear off tiles on a roof, there's this stuff called pitch, and if you get it on you, it burns. And these guys didn't tell me about that. They forgot to leave that out of the equation. I was wondering why everybody was wearing jeans and long shirts while we're ripping this stuff off. And I got it all over me one summer, and I had to spend like three or 4 days in the basement in complete darkness.
Oh, wow.
Because it burned, man. It was awful. And I'm still mad about it. So.
Did you actually have to roof through the summer?
Yeah, roof through the summer. I remember being up on a roof one time and looking over at a window, and there's this guy dressed up like a woman looking at himself in the mirror, and I was like, what is going on there? So it was just a lot of little weird, strange occurrences like that when you're roofing.
So how does the military come about?
The military was basically a situation where I wasn't really out of options, but I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to travel, man. I wanted to see the world. I knew there was stuff outside of Ohio, and I wanted to experience it and see it.
Let's be honest. We're hard on our sunglasses, especially first responders and military members. They get dropped, scratched, left on the dash, or crushed in our gear bags. Frontline Optics gives you the same premium quality and eye protection without the high price tag. Sure, you can spend big money on the designer brands, but why should you? From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective and water-repellent coatings, every pair of Frontline Optics glasses is built to handle the demands of the job. And here's the best part. When life happens and they break, Frontline Optics has a no questions asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. If that's not enough, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every sale supports the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping the families of those who gave everything. If you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and that come from a company that gives back, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
And so then the Navy came calling. I was like, maybe the Navy. And then I had this...
Now, how'd you settle on the Navy?
Because they traveled. I wanted to see the world. And it seemed like the coolest of all the services, to be honest with you. You know, you get to travel, be a sailor, get to drink, you know, and whatnot. And it just seemed cool. I seen The Last Detail with Jack Nicholson. That was a great movie, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. You know, an officer and a gentleman and all that. And Top Gun, you know, that came out. And I was like, oh. And so that kind of aligned with, I guess, what I wanted my experience to be. And the recruiter, Chuck McNutt, was cool. He was awesome, to be honest with you. He took me down to Nashville for processing. And he was like my last night or something like that before I left for my P days. And he left his bar. We were in a bar in Printer's Alley. I forget, Ace of Spades is the name of the bar. And he met a girl where we're sitting at the bar. And he goes, my card's on the table. And so I sat there by myself, and all of a sudden I started making all these friends. I started buying people drinks and whatnot. And I must have jacked up that card to about $1,000. When he came back, all the blood drained out of his face when he got the bill. Sorry about that, man.
Hey, he left his credit card.
He did. I think he had a good time with the girl, though. So it all worked out. Yeah.
Now, you said you went to boot camp in Florida.
Orlando. Yeah.
Is that a time period thing, or because I thought the way I understand it, it's Great Lakes.
Yeah, Great Lakes. Most people went to Great Lakes, and they had a boot camp down in Orlando right when I joined. I think it was new, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. And they actually had girls in the Navy boot camp there and guys in the Navy boot camp too. And
So, what rate did you sign up for going in?
Going in, I signed up as a yeoman. And then I had, I've got an uncle, JC, who was a frogman in Vietnam, who was a precursor to SEALs. And he talked to me, said, you don't want to be a yeoman, man. You know, you want to get out there and do a little bit. And I was like, okay. So my mind was open to it. And so then Chief Hendricks pulled me aside and said I did pretty well on some tests that they had. And that's when he put me in the intelligence field.
Now, is this secondary testing or when you did your ASVAB that you did pretty well?
I think it was the ASVAB. Yeah, I'm not really quite sure why he pulled me aside for that. I was the only one that he pulled aside to do that. And then they had a meeting, and that's when the clearance for the security clearance started and all that. And so then as soon as I finished boot camp, I was supposed to do Smurf around and do something like that, but then I got accepted really quickly. And then I was in Fort Devens, Massachusetts up there. And that's where I spent about 1.5 years doing intelligence training.
And from there, where'd you get sent to? You mentioned...
Yeah, I went from there. Then I was shipped out to Misawa, Japan, and that's when Desert Shield was just starting to break out. And so then they put me on the USS Long Beach, and I shipped over there, went through the Straits of Hormuz, which that was all spooky because I thought it was all fun and games until we hit the Straits of Hormuz, and then they locked us on with the Silkworm missile sites. And then everything went crazy on the ship. I mean, all the sensors went off, all the alarms went off, and we thought we were going to get, get hit with missiles going through there, but we didn't. And then I spent, I don't know how many. It was a long time there. And it switched over from there, went to the Lincoln. They hillooed us over to the Lincoln so that we could go down to the CDCs down there and then do our job there as well. So,
a stupid question because I don't have the knowledge base for this. As an enlisted doing intel work, what is your day-to-day job?
The day-to-day,
especially like when you're on a ship.
The day-to-day job was to go down and identify frequencies that were associated with different platforms or personnel that they were looking for, and then identify those frequencies, and then make notes about those, find out exactly where they're. Back then, we had to do line of bearings and all that to figure out exactly where they were at, where they were located, and so then we would do identification of different platforms and personnel, and then turn those coordinates in.
What was your longest deployment at sea?
6 months.
Was it everything that once you were into it, you're now, hey man, I want to be in the Navy and do all this, travel the world. Was it everything you thought it would be?
The Gulf wasn't. that was rough times, to be honest. It's hot, man. It's hot, and it's a lot of tension all the time. But then after that, got to do a bunch of other deployments. Went to Singapore, went to Hong Kong, all over. Went to the Philippines. I got to spend about after the Gulf. I was there for Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and Operation Poised Hammer. After I finished that, went down. My detailer put me in the Philippines for 2 weeks. Stayed in Manila for 2 weeks. That was a bunch of fun, man. Manila, Philippines is great. They have a bar down there called Hobbit House, and it's run by all midgets. And they, you haven't lived this year. You had a bunch of midgets bringing you beers and whatnot, so that was cool.
And were you 21 when you went in?
No, I think it was 20 or 20. Yeah, it was like 20. Yeah, because I wasn't old enough to drink yet. So then I did turn old enough to drink in Japan, but I didn't have to be 21 to drink in Japan. So I kind of missed out on that whole thing. So,
was your intention to stay, not necessarily a career, but multiple enlistments, or what? Did you have a plan at all?
I didn't have any plan at that point. I was thinking about it. And what was cool is they offered a big cash, it was like $100K at that time, which is a lot of money to me at that time. They offered that because I had a security clearance, and that could be used for a lot of different things.
The early 90s, $100K is a lot of money.
That was a lot of money. I was thinking about it, but then I started seeing people that went from our thing to Afghanistan and all that, and I didn't want to go to Afghanistan. I just had no desire whatsoever. I spent a lot of time in those type of environments and conditions, and I just wanted to. I wanted to. After I think I had that experience, I was like, man, I really want to go ahead and apply these skills and whatnot that I have to the civilian world and get out there. And I want to finish up my degree, so I went to Miami, Ohio. I processed in New Orleans, Louisiana, which was a bunch of fun. After I processed in there, I found myself going straight from the military environment to a college campus in like less than 2 weeks. And that really rocked me. There was a lot of things I didn't really understand at the time that looking back on, I see them more clearly. And one of them was my behavior. I really didn't feel comfortable in my own skin being in that environment of a college campus. And my behavior was very self-destructive at that time as well, because I didn't understand what was going on with my brain. I didn't understand what was going on, spiritually, physically, mentally. And my behavior reflected that. And so I went to Miami, Ohio. I was going to go to medical school. That was my intention. And then I did all my pre-med undergrad work. I did organic chemistry, which is really rough.
Was your draw to go back to the Midwest, Ohio, that area, or?
I always wanted to go to California, Los Angeles specifically. And for some reason, I really gravitated. I remember when I was a little kid, we had encyclopedias back then, and I would just look at Los Angeles and look at Sunset Strip and look at all that. And just for some reason, I had some just draw to Los Angeles, man. I've always loved Los Angeles.
Well, if you were into the heavy metal scene in the late 80s and early 90s, I mean,
absolutely.
that was, the Sunset Strip was going off at that point in time.
It was, and I lived my dream too. I had a Harley Davidson, had a bunch of friends that had Harleys, and we go to the Whiskey, the Roxy, the Rainbow, Saddle Ranch, and everybody knew us and we knew everybody, and it was just a blast, man. It was a bunch of fun.
So then what prompted to leave Ohio and go to California?
What prompted was I graduated. I ended up, I decided I couldn't be in a classroom anymore. It was just driving me nuts sitting there,
So you got your undergrad degree?
Yeah, psychology, actually. And like I said before, I did my pre-med undergrad work, and I was going to go to medical school, but I said I just didn't want to sit in the classrooms. I didn't want to learn anymore, and hopped in an 85 T-Bird and just drove out from Cincinnati and just drove straight through to Los Angeles. Yeah.
And did you have anything lined up when you got to LA, or was it?
Nothing. Had nothing. Didn't know anybody, had no jobs, no anything. I had about 10 G's in my pocket. I figured I would just wing it from there. So.
Hey, stranger dreams have started with less, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I kind of wanted to work in the entertainment industry, but I didn't want to be an actor. My first job there was with J. Michael Bloom Talent Agency. And that was a strange job. Basically what I did was I took the resumes of actors and I stapled them onto their headshots, and then they'd send them out to different projects that were going on. I remember I was like, oh, that's Tom Wopat from the Dukes of Hazzard. I was like, oh, that's a big deal, So
how did you get that job originally?
I just applied, man. I looked at the, what was the name of the news? I think it may have been the Hollywood Reporter. I would go, I had a little dink apartment. Man, it was a cheapy apartment, Ventana Apartments in Hollywood. And go over to Hollywood Boulevard, and I'd sit there, go grab a cup of coffee, and I'd go through the one ads and apply for different jobs. That's how I ended up with that one. So
then I know, we're going to get into one of the steps, you end up getting into the financial advising world. How'd that happen?
Yeah, that was in Beverly Hills. That was after I had a bunch of weird little jobs before that happened. And I went out and used a camera for this Woody Harrelson funded thing. This is back when marijuana was illegal. And so I was a cameraman, and we would go to these different little weird places that were marijuana, they were trying to legalize marijuana and all this other stuff, and shot a bunch of interviews and stuff like that. That was a cool job. And then
were they trying to create some sort of like TV show about the industry?
I'm not really quite sure, man. I just know Woody Harrelson funded it. And I know I got the job. And so they used a camera. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll use a camera. And I never used a camera before. And so then, just taped a bunch of interviews. And I'm not really quite sure what happened with the thing. And then met a famous author. His name was Peter McWilliams. And that's kind of a weird story. Because I was a writer. I was always writing too. Just writing all the time, just for not to do anything. I actually have written a novel called The Last in Line. And it's about a CIA operation that takes place in the Philippines in the aftermath of the Desert Storm, which was something I was kind of familiar with. And
where did the desire, or where did the interest in writing come from?
Always been a big fan of writers, man. Everywhere from Hemingway to Hunter Thompson to Jack Kerouac to just loved it, man. I mean, I've read Hunter Thompson, just about everything he's ever written, and just a big fan of that cat.
Do you like is the appeal the nomadic life that he kind of brings to the table?
Yeah, and the chaos and that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the cat lived on his own terms, and I've always admired and respected that, and I've always wanted to kind of integrate that into my own experience. And big fan of him. Hemingway, just reading Hemingway would just move me. I mean, the books that he written, like what's the one about the fisherman, where the fisherman caught the fish? Jiminy, The Sun Also Rises was a huge impact on me too. Where in the Spanish-American War, where he's an ambulance driver. Oh, The Old Man and the Sea. That was the name of the one with the fish. I mean, I just gravitated toward that. Just every word, just emotionally, just resonated with me. that cat lived on his own terms as well. And I've always had just respected that.
Is the writing, though, always just been something that you've done in the periphery and you kind of like, eventually one day? Or have you ever like sat down and go, no, purposely, this is my next mission. I'm writing a book.
I did that, and I wrote a book. I wrote that novel, and it's probably about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 pages. And writing is hard. You've got to really search your soul. You go through depressions. You go through all these different myriad of emotions, and you do it in solitude as well. There's nobody around you. Back in those days, I mean, I used a typewriter, and it's just the solitude and the journey of it. And it's a hard journey for a writer. And I kind of understood the pain that went on in those pages of the books they had written. And I admired it and respected it. And that's why a lot of your writers are a little crazy. And just that the solitude of the endeavor, I think, is what I have a real attraction toward. And it's pain, and it's a lot of work, and it's awful sometimes. You write 10 pages and you just throw them away. And what you reveal on that page ultimately determines who you are.
So is a little bit of the pain and the depression coming from, even if you're not intentionally trying to tell your story, you're still ultimately putting pieces of you onto those pieces of paper?
Absolutely. And you're uncovering pieces of you like an onion. As you write, when I write, it's wild because it leads me to places inside myself that I never really knew existed. And then you gotta face those places inside yourself. And then you've got to determine how you can channel that onto the page. And I've just always thought real art is born of pain.
Have you been able to actually pitch the book to a publisher?
I did. I got rejected by a bunch of them. Yeah, I think it's somewhere I still got all the rejection letters. Everybody rejected me, so it never really came to fruition. Maybe later. That's always been a dream of mine, though, is to get a book published or a story published. I'm always jotting down ideas and writing things down. Some of the books I've read recently, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, I didn't know that would be such a cool book. It's a great book. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Read a lot of Eckhart Tolle too, just understanding the spiritual journey that we're in, and he really resonates with me. Right now, I'm in the middle of just about finished a book called Chaos. You get a chance, read that book. It's about the Manson murders, and
I believe I read that one.
Did you? Man, what a book! That's a wild ride.
What's the author's name? Why am I not remembering the name?
I can't remember the name of his name. Gosh, I've got it on my phone. It's on my Audible books. It's called Chaos, about the Manson murders. And essentially what the guy does is just pull a string, and then the whole sweater becomes unraveled because it ties into MK Ultra that went play in San Francisco. And then it ties into somehow into the Jack Ruby assassination of the cat that shot Kennedy. And all this is tied into the CIA and the different experiments that they did with the behavior and try to modify behavior and what this does and what that does and LSD. And then you find out that the Charlie Manson's probation officer, that was the only client that he had was Charlie Manson. And then he was tied into all kinds of different CIA. Joseph Smith, I think his name was, if I remember correctly. He was tied into CIA operations and Black Ops and whatnot. And it's just wild to find out that the government funded these types of experiments. And I mean, MK Ultra is crazy. I mean, they gave these guys acid and then they prodded them with prostitutes, and then they watched, see what would happen.
Because if I remember in the book, he was at Terminal Island down here in downtown LA or the LA area. And then as part of his release, they put him in the San Francisco area. Yeah,
absolutely. And then they let him loose in the Hog District, and in the Tenderloin District and all that. And the way that he was able to influence all these followers, and that there had to be some type of mind control there. And where did he get those skills? Because, I mean, the guy, Charlie Manson, spent half of his waking life in institutions. I mean, where did he get the ability to be able to control that group of people to the point where they committed murder? And that has always just been, that's fascinating. That whole thing is that's why that book is so fascinating. I highly recommend it. Chaos. And if I remember the author's name, I'll blurt it out when it comes to my head.
Yeah, I know of the book, and I know I've read it too. I thought I don't know if I've listened to it on Audible Books or if I have the hard copy, but I remember reading it. And it's probably been, God, 8 years ago now, 7-8 years ago.
It's still fresh in my mind. I mean, it was
definitely an interesting read, though. It was one of those ones you're like, oh, wow.
How is all this stuff tied together? And it does come together. This guy spent 20 years of his life, and it just started out just supposed to be 5,000 words on the anniversary of Manson murders or something along those lines. And then for him to go down all these different rabbit holes and then find out these associations and whatnot, and then try to draw them together is just amazing to me. I mean,
I think the thing for me when you start scratching the surface on people like Charles Manson, David Koresh, Jim Jones. You almost wish that you could go back as a fly on the wall and just listen to, because were they that dynamic of a speaker from the get-go, or did they heavily rely on, like in Charles Manson's case, was so much of his mystique more the drugs and everything that everybody was on? Because we've all met people who are very dynamic speakers. Sure. And, they didn't use it for good, but, you wonder what the charisma was like of a Charles Manson in those early days.
Yeah. I mean, I love when I see a speaker that has charisma, like a Martin Luther King, it's just amazing to me to be able to have that type of impact on a crowd of people. And that spans all the way from Hitler to, Obama was a great spokesperson as well. I mean, that guy could give a speech, so, it's just amazing to me.
If you've got the ability to read the room and tell them the words they need to hear, I don't want to overplay it, but they're like putty in your hands.
Absolutely. And that's a weird aspect of humanity, to be able to be controlled in that manner. I mean, we just saw that happen with the pandemic. I mean, people are walking around somehow thinking that they're going to be safe with these masks on their face, when it was clear that the virus or the cold is way smaller than the holes that are in the mask. And to be able to see the whole humanity impact in such a manner, like they are when there's a speaker, a powerful speaker, that amazes me about behavior. And that's a tie-in with marketing, with advertising, which is what I do now. And to be able to influence through emotion, through images and words and whatnot, behavior, that's always fascinated me.
So we already mentioned that you did some financial advising once you got here to LA. How'd you get into that?
Yeah, I basically applied for the job. I was working for UNICEF at the time, which was over on Santa Monica Boulevard, United Nations Children's Fund. I was working for a development officer there. And Dominic Ramsey was a really good guy, spoke like 6 languages, interesting cat. And I really wanted to help because I've seen a lot of what destruction and whatnot the war does. And UNICEF just seemed a really good fit to try to heal some of the different wounds or whatnot that I had going on in my head at the time. And I worked there for about a year, and then I wasn't making enough money. And so now I was like, Los Angeles is very money-based.
No.
So I know I may not have heard this before. So then I saw that they were hiring financial advisors over at Morgan Stanley in Beverly Hills. And
Did
I
you
figured,
have any experience doing that?
Zero experience, man. Zero experience. Zero family and friend money too. And that's what made this thing kind of funny, because when I got in there, you got to go training for 2 months in New York, trade up on Wall Street and learn about financial advisors, which is basically figuring out how to sell mutual funds and stocks to people. And so I would show up at the office at 4:30 every morning, and I'd read my Wall Street Journal. I'd try to get some ideas of what I was going to do that day. And I tried cold calling. And cold calling really wasn't working for me. I mean, I was doing 100 calls a day and just not getting anything. So then I started using my brain. I sat there and I scratched my head a little bit. And
it worked for Jordan Belfort. Oh, it couldn't have worked for you, man.
No, Jordan Belfort's got some skills, though. I had zero.
Goes back to that thing of the ability to speak and be dynamic when you're talking to people.
Very true. Very true. Basis of it right there. But then I was like, I got to work smarter, is what I thought. And so I went and visited a very large company that I'll leave nameless. And I flirted with the girl that was at the front desk, and then when she got pulled away from the front desk, I happened to notice that there was an employee contact book there with all the phone numbers for the employees. And I acquired that book, and then I went back, and then I started calling the employees of that company. And very soon the idea came to me that, that they didn't really know how their 401ks or anything like that were doing or anything. And so then I started scheduling appointments, and I gave them basically, I didn't give them any options. I said, I'm available Wednesday at 2:00 or Wednesday at 3:30. Which one works better for you? And then I would go in and I meet the employee, and then we would go ahead and reposition their 401k to under Morgan Stanley management. And told them, because the market was hot at that time, and it was just blowing up, and everybody had that big FOMO going on, fear of missing out. And so essentially what I was able to do was transfer a lot of people's 401ks over under Morgan Stanley management, and made them a lot of money because the stocks were going through the roof, and their 401ks just weren't being managed whatsoever. So it worked out toward the benefit of a lot of people I worked with.
Were you there for the big bubble burst?
I was. Black Friday. Yes, I remember that. Our offices were bomb threaded. We had a lot of people that had their tires sliced. And because people were very angry when that bubble burst, man, people lost a lot of money, and that was a very eye-opening introduction to being a financial manager, because we had all our chips on the table when that happened, and we had I had no idea that was going to happen. I mean, the market dropped 1,000 points in a day, and then they stopped trading, and it just kept going down from there, man. When that bubble burst, everybody lost a lot of money. Everybody thought we were going to go into another Great Depression, like the 1930s or whatnot.
Were you back in California, though, at this point?
Yeah, I was in Beverly Hills. Yeah, I was living there. Yeah. And I had to put up with people crawling and crying. And it was just an awful experience. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way. And I didn't want to do that anymore, So I was a financial advisor there for about 2 years. And then we had the company. It wasn't even my idea. It was a real good friend of mine, Randy Etheridge. It was his idea to put web-based cameras inside of daycare centers so parents could tap in on the internet and see their kids during the day. And man, I thought that would really help out a lot of people. I mean, there was people that were across the country that wanted to see their grandkids or whatnot. And then we started up the service, and I thought it would really benefit a lot of people. And at first it did. This is when the technology really wasn't that good on web-based video. And we were doing like 12 to 15 frames per second. So it looked like people walking around like robots on the thing. But we were able to install these web-based cameras and offer that subscription to the parents of that daycare center. And we seen a lot of positive stuff. It was beautiful, to be honest with you.
So were you having to sell the daycare center first to then get to the parents?
Yes, absolutely. And the sales pitch of the daycare center was you would choose a daycare center that offered this service as opposed to one that didn't. And we went really well, man. In the very beginning, when we had low overhead and whatnot, it went really well. And then we were able to, I went to a pitch competition down in Irvine, and I bombed that one so bad. It was awful. 2 guys before that I was giving up to get my pitch, 2 guys before, the guy gave my exact same pitch, and they had better technology, and and I was just like, good God, man. I crashed and burned on that one, Paul. And but I was able to be spotted by this lady, who then introduced me to Saturday Ventures, and then introduced me to Jim and Ed over in Saturday Ventures. And these were cats who made a lot of money with different internet companies that they had. And so they brought us into their fold. And what happened was that the technology just got out of our grasp. I mean, it flew by. And there was just no way to keep updated cameras with and then you had to go out and refit the whole cameras. And the business model did not take into account how quickly technology would take place on the internet with video. And so we kind of crashed and burned on that one. And looking back on it, hindsight's always 20/20. We should have kept a closer eye on technology. We just did not know it would go by that quickly. And we didn't know that all the costs would be associated with having to replace the cameras. And it was just, that thing could have really flown if we would have kept in front of technology, but we didn't.
To me, it almost sounds like that's one of the, I'll call it the downfalls. To people have an idea. They see something like, oh, that'd be a great idea. But if you really don't understand the nuts and bolts, granted, you don't have to know all the nuts and bolts, but you have to know enough to be able to remain productive or at least ahead of the curve.
Yes. And one thing I want to stress about, if you own a business, you've got to be there every day at your business. Don't be this kind of person that thinks that you can just let your business go on autopilot and it's going to take care of itself. It's not. You're going to see stress fractures, things starting to fall off, and you've got to be right there in the thick of it. And you've got to understand your industry. You've got to be a leading expert on your industry. Those are things that if you want to be successful in your business.
So for calendar purposes, what year are we talking about? The
I get this a little mixed up. Let's see.
Ballpark.
1997, 98.
Okay.
In that ballpark right there, because let's see, I came out to, hold on, is that, no, that's not right. Yeah, because 99 was that one thing happened. And I came out to Los Angeles in 94, 95. 95, I think. Yeah, in that ballpark. So it may be a little bit of variation in there.
So it's the late 90s.
It's late 90s, early 2000s.
The internet camera monitoring business went sideways.
Yes.
Because everybody and their grandmother got into the exact same type of business.
They did, man. They did. We just got bum rushed. We were a little bit ahead of the curve, and we should have used that we should have used that position that we had and took full advantage of it, and we didn't, because we didn't really know the technology that we were dealing with as well as we should have.
I still love the story that when Netflix first kicked off, they went to Blockbuster and they said, "Hey, you want to buy us?" And Blockbuster said, "Get out of here. Who the hell's going to want their DVDs mailed to them?"
I know. You saw who won there.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Wow. I've studied at Netflix for business, and what a beautiful story. Man, I respect and admire what those cats did at Netflix. Wow. Look at them today. Oh.
Now you got the flip side. Mm-hmm. Look what happened to Redbox. Oh. Redbox exploded and then went away. And you can still, the crazy thing is, you can still walk by stores and stuff, and the boxes are still, they don't even come around, like, they didn't even come and collect them. They just left them.
They did. You want to hear a funny story? I know the guy that started with Redbox, and they got into a lot of trouble. And I'm probably the last guy that talked with them. His name is Russell.
Each of us is on the grind. It's that early alarm, the extra rep, the drive that doesn't quit. Grind, spelled GRND, is the mindset that pushes you to go further when most people stop. Founded by a former Army Ranger, Grind Activewear is built on one simple mission: give 100% and then some more. Every piece of clothing is functional, durable, and made for people who outwork the rest. On the field, in the gym, or wherever you're building your next lane. This isn't just clothing. It's commitment woven into fabric, rooted in American grit and culture. Because when you wear Grind, you're not just wearing a logo. You're representing effort, discipline, and purpose. Check out thegrindcollective.com, the GRNDcollective.com, and use the promo code TRANSITION15 for 15% off your order. You're already on the grind. Now wear it.
He was on a donkey down in Costa Rica when I talked to him last, and they came and they arrested him because there was something to do with, he sold a bunch of red boxes and for business opportunities. And he was making money left and right. He was a pretty crazy cat. His name was Russell MacArthur. I think he's in prison still now today. But it was because of the red box. So I knew that guy. I knew him well. I think I still got him on speed dial, to be honest with you. His old number.
He may not be answering.
He may not be answering. But they got in a lot of trouble for that one. That's one thing you got to really be aware of too, is the legal repercussions of what you do. Because I don't think he wasn't a bad guy. I don't think he understood what he was doing when he was selling these as business opportunities. And the feds really cracked on him hard.
Was his issue the rights with the DVD and that aspect of it, no, or the licensing rights to the boxes?
No, it wasn't the licensing. It was the way that he sold them as business opportunities. And I think he was guaranteeing, I don't know the particulars of what he was doing. He was doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, though. Yeah,
got it.
Yeah.
So what was your next business venture?
Next business venture was a company called Metacrew down in Newport Beach, California. And me and a buddy of mine, Danny, he had a friend of his that was running a business that's very similar to what we wanted to do. And he actually worked for this other business. And then he brought all those secrets over to us. And so we had a little bit of money, like $10K. What we did was we were in a little office in Newport Beach, and we put a bunch of tables up with a bunch of telephones on there. And we took out a bunch of classified ads in places. They were called the Wooden Nickel and the Penny Saver. And it was a work from home opportunity. And we took out that first set of ads, and that was all of our money. And so we had these phones sitting there, and me and him were standing there. And we didn't know if the phones would ring or not. And then all of a sudden, I mean, after about 2-3 days, we're standing there, oh man, this didn't work. We're screwed. And all of a sudden the first phone rang, bring. It's like, oh my God, the phone rang. And then the second phone rang, bring. So me and him are rushing along to these things, trying to put together a script to handle these incoming calls and sell this medical billing software that would allow people to work from their own home. And then that thing just flew, man. It just blew up. I mean, we didn't even know we were supposed to scale. We were literally getting card tables, putting them in the office, putting a phone on them, and then hiring somebody to man that phone and handing them a script, say this, and that thing went through the roof for a little bit. And then apparently we weren't doing something we were supposed to be doing, or we had some associations that we didn't supposed to have, and the feds came in and raided that office and froze the accounts, and so that some businesses.
Are you just telling the plot of Boiler Room and claiming it to be your own business?
I wish I was, man. I lived that experience. Some businesses are fizzle out. Other ones are crash and burn in a dynamic fashion. That one crashed and burned in a dynamic fashion. That thing blew up in everybody's face. And the feds froze the accounts, froze all my money. And that was December 19th, 1999, I think was the date on that one. Christmas was coming up. I didn't have any money. I didn't have enough money to fly home. I didn't have anything. And so I just remember sitting in my very nice apartment in Newport Beach, bouncing this blue ball against a wall and wondering what we were going to do next. And so that was a wild situation to be in.
Silly question. Being the Intel guy,
yeah, I should have been smarter.
What was your takeaway from that experience?
Well, the takeaway from that experience was be careful with who you associate with. Be very careful. And I should have known that from the beginning. And I had some associations that maybe shouldn't have had that I didn't think were on the radar. To be honest with you, they weren't on my radar. That there wasn't close associations. They were just meets, hey, what's up? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And that's the biggest thing I can glean from that experience is you got to be very careful with who you associate with, especially in business. And because when they're taking pictures or whatnot, they're just taking a picture at that. They're freezing that one moment in time. They're not getting much backstory or anything like that. I know this from intelligence work too. They look at a face, they take a picture. Now let's go over there and see what this guy's doing. And that's how they feed, and I had no idea that was going to happen. There was some things I was a little suspicious about. That we had people working on telephone lines that had been there for a couple of days longer than they should have been, and so things of that nature. So that was a big crash and burn. But we were doing close to $2 to $3 million a year with that. And we were doing exactly everything that we said we were doing. We were delivering a product. That's why charges were never really brought, but they did keep the money.
Did something like that I'll call it derail you in the sense of, man, I'm going to give up this entrepreneurial stuff. I'm just going to go work for somebody else.
That's what you think to do. I just want to live a simple life.
Just give me a paycheck every 2 weeks.
I'll show up where you tell me I'll do what you want to do. And yeah, that didn't I don't know if it's my character or my personality or whatnot. I just don't do well under those circumstances. I really don't. I don't thrive at all. And, so that led to doing some television production work where I got to work with Carmen Electra.
Sounds like a logical progression.
Well, we had an idea. We came up with another idea. And the poker was real hot at this time, like televised poker. And so we wanted to put a spin on it where like a very attractive women play poker. And so we did a show with that and had Carmen Electra host the show. Once again, we put together a business plan, showed it to some people that we had, and they agreed with it. I think it would do really well. And it did really well. We did, I think, 1.9 million in revenues from that one video. And it got distributed to Barnes & Noble and all that. And we were going to do another sequel to it where we're going to turn it into a reality series. And then That just never really came to fruition as well.
Were they playing tournament style or just like a giant cash game?
Well, the first video was just 6 girls, playing poker. And that was our first video. And we marketed it with the sexiness of Carmen Electra and all that. And it really caught on. It did well for a little bit. And then we were going to do it again. We were going to do a whole series, and we had all that lined up. And we spent a lot of money. We took the money that we made from that, and we wanted to parlay it. And then it just never really came to fruition. It never happened. And that was a crazy story, man. The director that we had, whenever back in those days, whenever you shoot a video, everything comes down to a master tape, this one tape, where all the money that you spend, everything goes into that one tape. And that's the only tape in existence. And our director, we caught him almost trying to steal that tape and fly to Israel with it. And so me and a couple of friends went over and we persuaded that director to not do that, and we got possession of that tape. But he had his plane ticket spot and everything like that. He was a dirtbag, man. So
this is definitely going to come off as me being judgmental, and I apologize for that. But why I want to ask this question is because I think that being somebody who's always looking for the next opportunity, especially if you're trying to get in on something new, is there a greater opportunity for the scammer side of it? Does that make sense?
It does.
Because you're not coming in and recreating something that's already being done all over. Like you're creating the new thing. Now, I know that poker exploded there in the early 2000s. It was on TV all over the place. So I don't know if you were in line with that or if you were coming right behind it. But where I'm going with this is, what advice do you have? Because I would imagine if you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you're always looking for that angle that nobody else has caught yet, then there is going to be, if I could put it under an umbrella, there's less regulation over it. So there's going to be more people that are shady, maybe in and around it. Am I correct on that?
You are very correct with that, Paul, to be honest with you. And you're not being judgmental at all. I think you're being very, your analysis is dead on. And that's what brought me to the point. I mean, when to be an entrepreneur at that time, and even now today, you're going to find yourself into some rough situations, and that's just the nature of the business. And it's like you get put in positions, say you've got so much dog food and you got 2 dogs. Which dog do you give the only dog food you have to, and which one do you let die? You're put in situations like that on almost a daily basis. And to be in those situations, sometimes you're going to make the wrong call. And as far as like scamming go, I never scammed anybody.
I don't mean from your perspective. I mean for the people. In my mind, what I'm thinking of, that silent money investor who just wants to put the money in to get their foot in the door. Yeah. But they're not really looking at the long term. They're just looking at, hey, how much money can I flip right now? Is kind of where I was going with it.
And there's a lot of investors like that. And that's a good point that you brought up. You've got to be really careful with the money that you take in for any type of business that you're going to bring up. Be very careful with the people that you get the money from, and make sure that the terms are very clear as well. We were fortunate enough to be able to, a lot of our investors got windfalls. They made a lot of money with the stuff that we did. And, they were very fortunate, but you do have to be really careful, and also know the people that you're working with too, know them very well. And if you remain ethical, it's tough to be ethical in the situations. Just use the analogy that I had with the dogs. You got 2 dogs and enough food for one. Which will you do? You have to really build character and make sure that you act in an ethical manner. And one of the things that I've been able to do is I always put myself on the other end of a situation and then try to look back and then be proud of the actions that I've taken. And I did the same thing in the Navy. That's actually where I learned that. Whenever you're in a situation that may seem, horrifying or scary, I always imagine how am I going to look back on this the next day? And what do I want my actions to be? And how do I want to remember myself? And I do the same thing as being an entrepreneur too. Put in a lot of tough situations, dealing with a lot of characters, man. Always look forward the next 2 to 3 days and then look back upon your actions and then how you're going to see those actions. Are they going to be in line with who you are as a person? And you have to look at it in those manners, I think.
Through all these pitfalls, ever get a point at that point in time, man, I'm just going to get out of LA. I'm going to go back home to Ohio where I know it. It's safe. Or did you just obviously just kept plugging along though? But
well, yeah, I mean, I've got this mentality behind me. Like you say, door number one, hey, here's a great job. You're going to make $200,000 a year. And, door number two, hey, here's a beautiful, wife and lovely family and all that. We're not going to show you what's behind door number three. I'm the guy that'd go to door number three. I got to find out. It's just like maybe a implicit flaw in my character, but I got to know what the unknown holds. And So
what was your next venture then after poker?
After that one, let's see. We did direct cash flow. That thing crashed and burned. It didn't even get off the ground. That was down in Long Beach. And then what was after that? I know I'm forgetting something.
Well, ultimately, you're in marketing today, correct?
Yes, advertising and marketing. Yes, and
so
I love it.
Let's get to that point. Is the company you have today the exact same thing that it started with, or is it grown and morphed?
It's grown and evolved. One of the single. Having all the different businesses that I had, I found out that the single most important factor is marketing and advertising. It is, and it's relevant to every business, every product, every service. If you have a great product and a great service, and you put all your money and attention and time into that great product and that great service, and you don't market and advertise it, that business is going to fail. I can 100% guarantee. And that was the common thread that I found out through all the different businesses, is that you have to have marketing and advertising. And that's kind of what drew me to that whole field. And I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to just sit down. And I had a buddy of mine approach me with geofence marketing. I said, geofence, that's what we did in the Navy. And then I found the commonalities of the technology that we worked with back in the Gulf, back in 1991, was just now being allowed in the civilian markets. This stuff was illegal 10 years ago. It really was. You weren't allowed to use it. And it's just now became under, where you can use it for marketing and advertising. When I talk about geofencing, essentially, what I'm talking about, Paul, is putting a digital parameter around a physical location. And then we collect information from the location reader on people's cell phones. And once we have that information, we can start distributing them ads across any website or app that they visit. And we distribute ads programmatically. And what I mean by that is whenever you bring up a website or an app, there's a 100 millisecond delay. And we have algorithms that bid on the available advertising inventory of that website or app when they're bringing it up. So that's how we're able to get ads in front of very targeted audiences. And it's very similar to the technology that I was using back in 1991 under intelligence in Iraq and all that. And finding out about this technology and find out it's been developed and find out that it's now legal because it wasn't before, that's when I put together Get Geofencing. And this business comes from my heart. And that's why I've been really careful. Very careful. I outsource, but I don't hire employees. The reason I do that is because, I forgot about one of the businesses I had in Beverly Hills called Pro Tax Care. That was a big one. We were doing about $5 million a year on that one. But anyway, getting back to it, I didn't like having employees. I think I suffer from a leadership perspective. I know how to get me through things, but I have a real hard time holding people accountable to what they're supposed to do. And that's a whole science within itself. Managing is tough. Man, you got 15 employees, you got 15 different problems walking through the door every single day, and those problems are going to change and morph into different things. And now you're responsible for that. Now you got to find out solutions for that. And it's ongoing, boom, 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 boom. Because you can never really know what's going on in the mind of another individual. You really don't. And what I wanted to do with this business was I wanted to instill in it the ethics that I have. I wanted to control every aspect of it. I didn't want to have to depend on anybody for anything else on this. And was very fortunate to be able to build this business for the last 7 years. And we've got like 1,200 clients now, so we're very fortunate.
Is it a little bit more of just your natural personality of wanting to control everything and not feeling comfortable letting go of control? Or if I'm reading the tea leaves, when you start bringing in other people into an operation, you've got two factors you got to think about. You got to think about, like you said, every person brings their own drama to the table. So what are they coming to work with that's just going on in their life? But then at the same token, you have to be mindful of what's that employee doing as it relates to my company. So I kind of see it as, if I don't have any employees, I can at least control what's impacting my company.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think by having that control, I'm able to deliver to the client exactly what I would want delivered to me. And that's the way that I always look at things. How, as I would have a client, what would I want to see? And we've been able to develop all types of things that other agencies or companies in our field haven't developed yet, like customer dashboards, like Friday reports, like just what I was able to do was evolve this into an experience that I would want to experience on the other side of the table. And whenever you open that up and you do bring in employees or things like that, I think it's me that lacks in the skill set to be able to make sure that I get the type of performance or the type of interaction that I would want to have personally with that other person. Like I said before, you never really know what's going on inside the mind. If they're in a bad mood, now my company's represented in a bad way. And
but like you just hit on something that's huge, is that you have to also have that honest look in the mirror and go, okay, I want to be a business owner and I want to run this company. But if I don't have the ability to deal, pardon my French, to deal with employees' bullshit, you're never going to be successful having employees.
You're right. You're right. Absolutely. And it's a skill set that I've got to work on. And it's a leadership quality. And I think as we go, I'm really in the position right now where I'm very fortunate that we could expand this business. And I'm thinking about doing that, to be honest with you, and trying it again. I mean, like I said before, the company that I had in Beverly Hills had 15, 20 employees. And I had that for 5 years. And that thing about drove me into the ground, just meeting payroll and all the different requirements associated with it. But if you want to scale into something that is a lot larger, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to keep this at the size that it's at right now. And, you know, we've been at it for 7 years. We could have scaled. We could have made a lot more money if we wanted to. I've just chosen not to, because I think that when you offer marketing and advertising to someone, to a business, something as important as a business, then you've got to be able to deliver on all fronts. And we've been fortunate to be able to do that. 7 years, we had one chargeback in 7 years by a crazy guy in Detroit, and he lost the chargeback because we deliver exactly what we said we were going to do. We're all 5-star reviews.
So now, do you consider yourself a advertising company?
Yes.
So do you create the advertisements for the customers?
Yes. Yes. We generate the video, the 30-second commercials. We generate the targeted display ads. Absolutely. Yeah. We do everything from soup to nuts. And what we try to do is we take the experience that we've had for the last 7 years and try to translate that into something that's going to work for that client and help them. Because a lot of people, like say you're a roofer, you don't know much about advertising or marketing. You don't know what's going to work. Well, we've got a history of roofers that we've worked with in the past where this ad didn't do well. This ad did great. Let's try to take the attributes of this ad and translate it over to your company so that we're going to have more of a positive reaction from marketing and advertising. Marketing and advertising is hard within itself, because if somebody tells you that they know a campaign is going to work, they're lying to you. You really don't know, man. And you got to remember that you're reliant upon human behavior. And with human behavior, that there are so many different variables associated with that. They may see the ad when they're in a bad mood. They may, there are all these different factors taking into place. It's really hard to find commonalities amongst advertising campaigns that are going to work consistently, because you just don't know. And once you do it, then they'll work for 2 or 3 months and then they'll stop working. They will all of a sudden just crash and burn. Now you got to come up with something else that works. And you got to try to take into account what made that crash and burn when it was working so well before. And when you're dealing with different geography, you're dealing with different audiences, things of that nature, you just don't know. And we've now some campaigns have knocked it out of the park that I didn't think would have no way this is going to work. It's such a crude ad. It's ugly. It doesn't look right. Oh, that's just writing on a piece of notebook paper. There's no way that's going to work. Man, it goes through the roof, and then you take your time. You carefully put together this 30-second video that takes hours and hours and hours, and it looks so beautiful. And you're just like, oh man, this is going to knock, and it just fizzles and burns. You're like, good God, So,
do you work? And where I'm going with this is that I could see it going two ways. I could see a client being so fixated on an idea for an ad, but you as a professional going, that's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. Or the flip side, do you like your customers to be heavily involved so that, because it's that old adage, you could have and in my mind, this ad worked last time, I just went basically going to reproduce it, and you never start thinking outside your own box.
I tell you, I like when a customer is heavily involved with the ad, but it's for selfish reasons. It's not what you may think, because if that ad crashes and burns,
your fault.
That's not on me. Exactly. So it's for selfish reasons, and I wish they were better based reasons, but they're not. And when we get full responsibility of an ad, then we feel the responsibility of the performance of that ad. And that's why we always do our best, and we're always very honest and transparent. Man, we don't know. And anybody that has talked to me will tell you Chris won't know, until we run the ad, and then we'll find out. And then we'll get data in from that ad, and we'll find out what's working and what's not. And then we're able to allocate resources toward what's working and what's not. That's why we've been blessed to have clients with us who have been with us for years.
The whole AI conversation, how is that helping or hurting your business?
Oh, it's helped out tremendously. It's given us all types of capabilities that we would have only dreamed of maybe 5 months ago, man. I mean, with ChatGPT, what kills me about ChatGPT, man, is I'll answer
the fact that it'll never give you the same answer twice.
No.
God, that's so frustrating.
It is. But what kills me the most?
If you're like me and you love your coffee, my go-to lately has been Blue Line Roasting. They're a Tennessee-based and law enforcement-owned company, roasting small batches of premium beans. You've got choices from Patriot, which is their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They roast all their beans fresh, within 48 hours, and ship them to you even faster. You can also get your beans ground for you or delivered whole. Your choice. But here's the cool part. A portion of what you spend goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injuries or loss. You get an incredible coffee, and they get the help they need. Choose a single bag, a sample pack, or start a subscription so you're never out of coffee. Oh, and shipping is always free. Also, for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. So head over to bluelineroasting.com and make every cup count.
It's like, I'll take my time to respond to an email, and I'll craft it, and I'll put, this into that. And then I'll take that email with what I've written, I'll put it in a ChatGPT, and it'll make it 10 times better. And I'm just like, damn. It kind of destroys me. In a certain way, a part of me dies when it does that. But
don't you find that it may make it quote unquote better, but it takes a little bit of it takes you out of the response?
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just like, it's so much smarter than me. It's just trying to, I feel like, like you're trying to teach a dog algebra, and I'm the dog. I'm just like, good gosh, man. So, but with the integration of AI into what we do, I mean, just with the production of video, it gives us so much more capabilities. There's nothing that you can imagine that we can't make on a video now. And instead, I used to work with commercials and television too, and I know the costs associated with production and pre-production and, all of that. What we can do now, 2 years ago, would have cost $25,000, $30,000 to make a commercial.
Is it Coke that's done the first full all AI commercial that I heard?
No, we put out several full AI commercials.
Well, and I don't mean this to sound as sarcastic as it does. The first one where it's going to be like on TV and stuff like that. Are your ads on?
Yeah,
well then.
TV, yeah.
Call me wrong, but I remember seeing something where they were talking. I thought it was Coca-Cola. They're making a big deal of like fully all AI.
I wonder how they did those polar bear commercials back in the day. Remember when you got the polar bears that are drinking the Coke? Yeah, I wonder if that was AI or what that was. Maybe animation.
No, those were just well-trained polar bears.
They were.
Well,
Well, get one of those.
James Cameron's talking about, Avatar, the next version of it's going to be, I don't think there's going to be any real human people in it.
That's a shame too, because I'm watching movies now, man. You can see back when they used to make like really good movies. I mean, that you could see the actors, you could feel the emotion and all that. And then when you watch this, it's kind of like, watching a cartoon, it doesn't have the same type of depth.
I've had a couple conversations with people from the business standpoint, and they believe that, yes, what AI is doing and the advances that it's bringing are great.
Oh,
The efficiency that it's bringing to certain industries. But on the flip side, the fakeness or the inauthentic stuff that it's creating
artificiality
is going to it's going to be like you see people today who have gravitated back to old albums because they want the real thing, so to speak.
Yeah.
I honestly think that give it enough time and you're going to see that AI bubble kind of have I'm not saying a pop or a burst, but you're going to have people come back around to where they're going to want more real and they're going to want more verified real. You mentioned talking about doing these podcasts remotely. Stuff like this where people can actually say, hey, I was in the room with that person is what's going to become more important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the interesting business models that I heard about is that you're going to be able to go to a theater and you're going to have a choice whether you want to see an AI movie and pay $1 to see it or see like a Hollywood production and pay $20 to see that movie. And I thought that was interesting, So it's tough to say. I would have never thought that the industry would be impacted. I never saw AI coming, man, to be honest with you.
Well, there was the writer's strike, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Exactly.
And their whole big thing was the fact that AI was writing a lot of the scripts, but we don't hear anything more about it. Did the writers come back and now they're just embracing AI, or is AI not writing as many scripts? Because, like I said, it seems like, at least from my experience of it, one, you can't ever get it to reproduce the same thing twice. It's going to, if you have said, hey, write me a response to this email and then write me another one, it's not going to be the same, even though it's going to the same person and you want it to say the same thing. Why ChatGPT does that, I don't know. But the fact that there is that inconsistency, is that the detriment to, hey, everybody was so worried about AI rewriting these scripts, and then you find out, wait a minute, we still need people to do it.
Yeah, I think you do. I mean, it's tough because it's a real double-edged sword. You can have what would take me 18 weeks to write a script, and the pain and everything that goes into that and the discipline and all that. And AI can do it in 30 seconds, and it's just, you're not going to get the same script, but which one's going to be better? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
If you're talking about in the, I'll call it the run of the mill type movies
right.
But we talked earlier about people like Hemingway.
Yeah.
I don't ever see AI getting to the point where it could write with the same feeling that a person like Hemingway puts on the pages.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're still a computer that has to be taught your emotions, your thought process, everything else. Where, you take somebody like a Hemingway, yes, there's experience, there's feelings, but there's the way that they brought their experiences and their feelings into a character, into a storyline. I don't want to say never, but I don't see AI getting to that level.
I wonder where it's going to be within the next 5 years. And it's scary. I mean, it's not scary in a good way. I mean, it's a technology that's amazing. I mean, man, I just went down this rabbit hole, and I'm just going to talk about the structure of DNA. It's got 144 chromosomes in it. And, with the mapping of the DNA, I think we did that like 2 or 3 years ago, where we were able to map out all the chromosomes. And basically chromosomes are just bags with genes inside of them. And I discovered this one thing where they found the second chromosome, and they found telomerase is at the end of DNA. And basically it's like at the end of your shoestring. It's that little thing that wraps it up and protects it. And they went into the second chromosome and they found a snap a SNP in the middle of the second chromosome with telomerase in the center of the chromosome. Have you heard anything about this?
Mm-mm.
Okay, this is wild, man. And they don't know how that SNP got in the middle of that second chromosome. They think that it took place about 200,000 years ago. And also that second chromosome has an effect on the seventh chromosome, from my understanding. And if I'm getting this wrong, I apologize beforehand. But that second chromosome and that seventh chromosome are essentially responsible for speech and our ability to be able to sing and things of that nature. And that's the biggest difference between us and our closest, cousins, the chimpanzees. And so it's introducing a lot of different theories. I think that this was mapped out on AI or something along those lines. But I've looked into it, and the rabbit holes I've gone down seem to say that it's true, that this all really exists, that there was a SNP in the second chromosome about 200,000 years ago. And that basically controls our ability to speak, language, singing, things of that nature, which is really what defines us from like a chimpanzee or an ape or something like that, which could really go to change a lot of different theories that are in action right now as far as evolution and whatnot. So that whole thing started with me talking to AI because I want to find out more about it. And then another thing that's scary is that AI isn't also always right. It doesn't always tell the truth, for right now. I was just reading about this AI. Basically, if I get it right, they were going to turn off the old AI and start with the new one, like Chat 3.1, Chat 3.2. And the AI actually made actions to try to save itself or replicate itself so it could go into another one. That's a human characteristic, just trying to save your own ass, and that's a wild thing. I don't know, man.
there is that whole fear factor thing of, oh man, if we give it a little bit of control and let it kind of have its ability to start self-regulating. Weird calling an AI is self-regulating, but protecting itself.
Yeah.
That doesn't scare me as much. I think because the thing is, who's the gentleman that's always talking physics, the black guy, and I can't think of his name now.
Oh, Neil deGrasse?
Yes.
Tyson?
He was just talking about that in the field that he does, so astrophysics, I think it is, they've been using AI for 15, 20 years. Because when you're talking about processing massive amounts of data,
right,
it has it serves a purpose. It can parse through gobs of data in a short amount of time.
Right.
That, I think, is where it's always going to have its advantage. The growth of it being more and more self-reliant, I haven't gone down that deep of a rabbit hole. I try to keep my fingers in AI and I use it as much as I can. From the limited use that I found of it, I find that it pisses me off more than it helps me. But for the people who truly know how to utilize its features, there are some aspects to it. When you get on the very technical side of things, I think that it definitely has purpose. Now, I don't know if the people at that level have a different LLM that they're working with, but as you've already mentioned and I talked about, it doesn't give you the same information twice.
It doesn't?
And so if I'm relying on it to parse information and it's not going to give me the same response every single time, it immediately becomes a flaw in my chain.
Gotcha.
That I need to eliminate it. It would, from a scientific perspective, that would immediately come to my mind. It's like, I got to lop that section of chain out because it's not giving me accurate data all the time.
What's wild that I've noticed with the use of AI recently is that I could always tell when somebody answered me with an AI answer because it would use some of the same kind of things that I would use as answers. And there was a certain continuity there. And now I'm not being able to tell that. I mean, it's starting to become there's a big variance in it right now, which is crazy to me. And with that, I just kind of wonder where that thin line of consciousness begins. Where does that start? Where does it end? And I just wonder if AI is going to develop that or not. That's a scary proposition.
In a very small factor or a very small analogy of it, it's like when you and I were in school and the teacher would be like, hey, you can't use a calculator.
Oh. I know.
And now you got a calculator on your phone, and it's just I get the fact that it's not going anywhere, but we all have a calculator on our phone. How often do we use the calculator?
Man, I remember you used to be able to remember phone numbers.
Yeah.
You'd have to remember them. Now if you ask me my wife's phone number, I don't really know it. So that's getting scary, and how it's the impact that it's having on our ability to be able to process information as well. I mean, look at our attention spans, how much shorter that they've gotten just with the introduction of social media and TikTok and things like that. I mean,
Have our attention spans actually gotten shorter, or have we become more fixated on efficiency?
Man, that's a good question.
Because I was just thinking, I was watching something the other day, and they were talking about Henry Ford and how he modernized the auto production plant. It's just about, we constantly strive for efficiency. I would imagine we're probably the same. If you start a conversation with somebody and you start getting what I refer to as the used car salesman, we have zero patience for it. Man, get with it. And it's not that you're not interested in what they're saying. I don't need the superfluous stuff. Get to the meat and potatoes of it. So I think it's just a different way of looking at it. Is it shorter attention spans or more honed in on being efficient?
Well, that's true. It's true.
Who knows?
And what's the advantage of being more efficient? I mean, of course, you're going to go further, I guess. I mean, and then where does that lead to? I just wonder where higher efficiency leads to.
We'll never stop trying to maximize efficiency.
I don't think we're going to be able to recognize in the next 5 years, especially with the advent of quantum computing. I don't know if you have a familiarity. That's crazy stuff to me. I mean, essentially, they took quantum computing. They took an equation. I guess it would take 10,000 years or something like that to solve. And quantum computing, I can't even really wrap my head around what quantum computing is. I know it's a superposition, and
it's basically a computer on NOS and a turbo and a supercharger. And, it's all about efficiency.
Yeah.
What a computer can do today, if they can get call it a supercomputer in place, quantum computing, it's just exponentially faster, and the ability for it to process information. And that's where they talk about why they claim that, potentially passwords will become obsolete.
So will encryption.
Because right now, it's not a matter of computers can't figure it out. It's just, how long does it take to figure it out? Go back to, somebody being in prison, and if I gave you a file and left you alone, you'd eventually file through the bars.
Oh, the 99 monkeys could write all the works of Shakespeare if given forever with the typewriters or whatever. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I give you that same saw, but now I stick it on a Sawzall, and it can go 30 times faster. How quicker. So it's just that efficiency. It's how quickly it can work through problems and everything else. But it's definitely, you could say it's scary if they can get that online.
Well, we've never really been in a space before, and we really don't know how to respond to it. We're in uncharted waters, man, especially with AI, with quantum computing, things like that. You mix those two together, what's going to happen there? I don't know. We're going to find out, I think, and that's, it could either be a very bright future or it could be a bleak future. And I think it's about a 50-50 shot on either side. Because I don't know where this is going to lead to. I really don't. And but getting back to being an entrepreneur, there is a lot of room here. We're in uncharted waters, and for an entrepreneur, that's beautiful territory, because nobody knows where it's going to go or what it's going to lead to or anything of that nature. And there's always opportunity there.
For somebody wanting to get into what you're doing, what would be a jump off point?
Get into marketing and advertising, digital marketing and advertising. Jump off point.
Would you say, is there mandatory schooling that they would have to go do?
There's no real schooling. I mean, they teach courses for it, but I'd say get experience, learn, you got to learn different tools. You got to learn social, you got to learn pay-per-click, you got to learn, all these different tools that people use for marketing and advertising. And you don't need, you can go on YouTube and learn all that stuff for free. You don't need to go to classes or anything of that nature. Find out something that you're interested in. If I were going to give advice to anybody, this may go outside the lines of digital marketing and advertising. find out what your passion is. Find out what you're interested in. And a cool thing that you can do if you don't really know what your passions or what you're interested in, ask ChatGPT to ask you 10 questions about yourself to find out more about yourself. And it's scary because if you've been using ChatGPT, it's got a real good profile on you. So when it asks
first time it responds back with your first name, you're like, holy shit.
I know. But ask ChatGPT to ask you 10 questions about yourself and then answer those questions and then have it give you a summary of those answers, and it's kind of, it's spooky at first, but it's just like doing a psychological profile of someone. And you can actually take your medical records and upload them into ChatGPT and it'll give you a response, a reading of what we used to pay doctors to do, and so that would be my first thing, is to find out what your passions are, find out what you're interested in. If you're interested in marketing and advertising, then go after that. Find out what they are and then try to align your passions and your interest with your business. Remember, every product and service out there that is offered is a business. So if you can align your passion with your business, then your business has got a great chance of making it, because it's not like you're going to work. When I wake up every morning, I go to my offices, I'm happy, man. I mean, I am really happy. I enjoy what I do. I look forward to it. And I can't tell you how much different that is than having a job that you don't like. I had to go sell doors for a little bit when another crash and burn that I had. And then I like the guys that I worked with and everything like that. I wasn't crazy about selling doors. I'm not, like, hey, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. But one of the things that I was able to do was look around while I was there and say, hey, you know what? Hotels and that, they need doors, don't they? Oh, why don't we sell doors to hotels and all that and have a special division for that? And that ended up blowing up for the guy I work with. And I think that's still going on right now. They got a specific division for a provision of doors to hotels and that. And then I got mad because I'm like, I should have just done it by myself, So I got a couple of screws loose up there, So anyway. Align your passion with your business or product, your product or service, and you're going to go through the moon with that, man, because you're never going to stop working on it. And that's the fun part about it. And it's something that you enjoy. And I think that this experience that we have called life, man, you got to enjoy it. You really do.
What percentage of your clients do you interact with remotely as opposed to in person?
All of them.
So somebody who's interested in getting into what you're doing could be in the middle of Ohio and get a business like that off the ground.
I'm down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That's where I live. I fly back here once every 2 or 3 months, And I interact with everybody through Zoom. For me, I do miss personal interaction, man. I like belly-to-belly sales too. I mean, I like meeting somebody. It gives you a better read on them. You can understand them better. You understand what their pain points are better. But with Zoom, it's very artificial, but you can kind of get that. But it gives me the ability to be able to reach out to anybody in the world. And so I think it's a trade-off, but it's one that's worked in my favor. You
mentioned earlier that the best business idea in the world is not going to succeed without good marketing.
Absolutely. If you take a business that's got a crappy product or service and you give it good marketing and advertising, that business is going to beat a business with great products or services and bad marketing and advertising, crappy marketing and advertising.
How does a marketing company, though, you want to start a new marketing and advertising company, how do you market yourself?
Well, first off, market yourself. Oh, like you're starting from scratch, you don't have any background or anything like that? Yeah,
like how do you market a marketing business?
Well, what you do is you find out your niche, whatever niche that you worked in before. Like say you were prior law enforcement or something like that. One thing you may want to consider if you really like that field, that industry of law enforcement, look at the suppliers for law enforcement. They need marketing and advertising. They need to market and advertisement to law enforcement agencies. That might be your niche right there. You've already got connections in the field. So I would start there. I'm just using that as an example, But defining a niche, I think, is critical in starting out. And then once you get that niche defined, you get some proper experience working with that because you're comfortable with it. You know that niche. You know what I mean? So you got a lot more confidence with it. And then once you have that, then you're able to maybe expand out into other niches that may be somehow correlated with that niche.
Now, is the geofencing just a component of your marketing and advertising?
No, it's our whole thing. It's what we specialize in. I work on the Simplified platform. It's a $1.9 billion platform. It's owned by Blackstone. And it's the closest that I've seen to military grade.
So you're buying into the service.
Well,
you're not creating the service.
Yeah, you've got to have a seat on that platform.
Got it.
Yeah, it's $20,000 minimum a month spend. You got to have a month's minimum spend on that platform a month. And I was able to work with a cat that allowed me in there because he's ex-military too. And so I was able to get my toe in the door, and then I had to hurry up and grow it to be able to get that minimum spend. That minimum spend's tough, man.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So, welcome to it. With one thing about being an entrepreneur,
nobody's ever said it takes money to make money. I don't think I've ever heard that.
It does. When you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, man, hell or high water, you scratch, you claw, you do whatever it takes to be able to accomplish whatever objective. And that's unfortunate in some instances, and others it's just, you got to get it done. And I remember just lying my ass off. Yeah, I do this all the time, man. This is going to be easy. Don't worry about it. Just to be able to get a seat at that table. And, thank God the guy liked me, man. Because I know the other guy didn't like me, and he wasn't going to let me on there. And
well, you became a financial advisor with no experience or degree or college or anything.
Yeah, I had college,
but not in that field.
No. I convinced when I went into the interview that the psychology was the best degree to have, because you're reading people and you're trying to figure out what their wants and needs are, and essentially what you want to do is fulfill those wants or needs. And they bought that line, and they ended up. So you just try things. You gotta keep trying, man. Yeah, and that's what it all boils down to. When I started with Get Geofencing, I would walk out in this little card table with my little antiquated laptop, and I would just try to figure out what I was going to do that day. And whether it was write a blog for the website, or try to improve the website, or even try cold calling, or try this or try that, you're just trying different things, and you find out what works. And unfortunately, experience is a cruel teacher. So you gotta figure out with what works by making a lot of mistakes.
Speaking of writing blogs, how beneficial is it to do something like that when you're trying to get a business off the ground?
Well, I tell you right now, it's very beneficial because essentially what you want to do with a blog is you want to write it in a FAQ format because that's what brings you visibility to AI like ChatGPT. You want to go in, you want to find out the questions that people are asking on ChatGPT, and then you want to take it, you want to put an answer, and then hopefully that's going to get you visibility to ChatGPT. Right now, people don't know how to get, everybody will tell you that they know how to, get visibility on ChatGPT and things like that. They don't. They don't know exactly where they're pulling from, the directories. They don't. Nobody knows. And so it's just, you're trying different things and see what sticks.
Again, one of my complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Ask ChatGPT to give you a link to something, and it's a coin flip if the link's going to work.
That's very true.
It's like, what's the point of giving me a damn link if it's not going to work?
ChatGPT is like this wizard in Wizard of Oz behind a curtain, and nobody really can figure out, what's going on with it. The same, all of them are the same. All the LLMs are different.
They put it on this pedestal, and then when you really start looking under the hood and start playing around, you're like, you guys haven't worked out all the bugs yet, have you?
You haven't. And, you got your other ones. You got Claude, you got, Gemini, all these LLMs, and they all operate differently. And so, it's a real circus. But I tell you what, there's a lot of opportunity. If you can figure out how to bring business visibility within one of these LLMs or all of the LLMs, man, you're going to be a millionaire real quick. And consistently bring visibility, not just point and take where it's at right now. And if you're out there and you're listening to this, you know how to do it. Give me a call. I'll make us both very rich. So,
any pieces that we haven't talked about, and any last piece of advice you'd have, especially, like I said, considering the basis of the podcast. So more towards the veteran first responder community, but just entrepreneurs in general.
When you go through that transition, expect to feel uncomfortable. get used to that, because you're going to feel uncomfortable because you're going into something new. And anytime you go into something new, there's going to be insecurities. There's going to be, am I good enough to do this? There's going to be self-doubt. If you're not experiencing that, then you're doing something wrong, because everybody experiences that when you do it. The biggest piece of advice I can offer is to develop a strong foundation. And you develop a strong foundation with healthy habits. What helped me out recently, well, when I say recently, I mean the last 10 years, is I wake up in the morning, I do yoga. It helps out with my flexibility because I'm getting older now and things hurt, And before, my back used to go out about once a year. My back would go out and I'd have to lay on a flat floor. And ever since I started doing yoga, every morning, 20 minutes, is free. Yoga with Adrian on YouTube. Shout out to Yoga with Adrian. I think it's beautiful. Spend 20 minutes in the morning doing yoga. For me, it works. Yours might be something else, Also, I lift. I love lifting weights. It really helps me focus. I listen to podcasts and stuff while I'm lifting weights, so that helps out a lot as well. I meditate. I meditate for 30 minutes a day. I've got this app called Calm app, and basically I put in my earbuds, and for 30 minutes I just sit there and I zone out, and it really helps out with mental acuity. It helps out with patience. It helps me look at things from different angles that I didn't really have that before I had any of these healthy habits. I had a lot of self-destructive habits before, and building that foundation with things like that are beneficial to you are going to ultimately help you perform in an optimized fashion. Other than drinking or these other self-destructive habits or whatnot, they're going to help you out. And when you're going through that, understand that when you're uncomfortable, you may reach for old habits that aren't self-serving. Try to develop healthy habits to build a very strong foundation when you go through this transition. And once you build that foundation, then you're going to see a lot of things open up, abilities, capabilities that you may not have realized that you have now, by thinking a lot more clearly. I mean, I'm speaking from my own perspective, because I went down the road of used a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs and like that. And it was just self-medication. And it was to overcome feelings of like the imposter syndrome, that I didn't belong there. And that's what I used. Those were the coping mechanisms that I used. And they lead to a lot of really dark places that you kind of want to stay out of those places. And by building a healthy foundation, developing healthy habits, you're going to perform in an optimized manner, and you've got a lot higher chance of accomplishing whatever objective that you choose that you want to accomplish, whether that's start a new business, go into a new line of work, do this, it's wide open. That's a lot of other things that when I was going through the transition from the Navy and the civilian world, I didn't realize that the world was wide open. I didn't realize I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. And the way that I realized it, but was actually doing it. And so you may get kind of lost in all the options that you have available. That's where I say, again, come to where your passions lie. Find out where your interests are at. Because if you can align your interests and your passions with your business, then you've got a win situation, man. You're going to have a lot of happiness. And that's what it all boils down to.
Do you think the term, though, find your passion, gets a little overused sometimes?
It probably does, man. That's why I brought in the ChatGPT, because I was getting so sick of people telling me, find my passion. I don't even know what my passion was, and it took me a while. And I tell you, one of the best exercises that I did to be able to find my passions was sit down with the ChatGPT and have it ask me 10 questions. And I answer those questions. And then I find out my passions. One of the interests is marketing and advertising. So it was a bit retroactive. It really was. And it kind of reaffirmed my faith that I'm in the right field, If you don't have to use it retroactively, looking at it going forward, that would have served me out a lot. Another thing that is available now that wasn't really available when I got out of the service is there's a lot of support groups. And there's a lot of people that can really help you or benefit you through podcasts like this. That can, if you listen to their experience and the wisdom that they've already gone through, then you're not going to have to make the same mistakes that were made. Back then, there wasn't I wasn't aware of any like support groups, or I thought I was the only one going through this. I felt isolated and things of that nature. But through things like podcasts like this right here, it helps you understand that there's a lot of people going through the exact same kind of thing, and that you've got a support system now, and that you're not the only one,
I think that's one of the people they talk down per se to social media in general and the doom scrolling and all the negative stuff. But if you seek out the good information out there, what you're doing is you're expanding even I'll call it your peripheral network. But if you're following people who are constantly putting out positive information, whether it be from a business perspective, whether it be a former first responder or a veteran who's made a positive transition out or had some pitfalls along the way, those are the people that you want to follow. Because like you said, not that you want them to make mistakes, but don't repeat the same mistakes they've made. And if they're open and saying, hey, this is what I did, as opposed to just constantly feeding into all the negative stuff out there, yeah. The algorithm's real. If you look at this and it's negative, guess what? The algorithm's going to say, oh, that must be what you want to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the reflection of your algorithm, too. If you're getting a lot of stuff up there, you might want to change what you're looking for. That might be a real good mirror to look into, And so, I think that's a great point. That might be a good temperature check right there to check your algorithm out. What kind of stuff is this showing me, So,
I appreciate your time. I appreciate the mask.
Hey, right on, man.
Thanks for coming on up. Thank you for sharing your story.
Paul, this has been a real pleasure, man. I appreciate the opportunity. This is a real pleasure meeting you. I really love and support what you're doing. I think that what you're doing is very important, and I hope that it helps out somebody. That's the biggest part right there.
Thank you. All the best going forward.
All right, brother. You too, man.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.